So, Vicki, what have you got out of this visit to India as part of a fairly big Australian delegation?
So this is, as you say, a big delegation, in fact the largest delegation that the group of 8 universities have brought to India. We've got 5 of our 8 Vice-Chancellors from our research-intensive universities, so that's not insignificant, and a delegation of around 27 from the group of 8 universities. The sole focus for us is around how can we capitalise on what is a significant opportunity, and you would have heard this from people you've spoken to previously. The numbers in India are always big, and so they have the largest tertiary aged population in the world, and with that comes huge challenges and obviously opportunities for us in Australia. We educate a significant proportion of Indian students at the undergraduate level. I think we've overtaken the UK as the preferred destination of choice. But the focus has to be more than just at undergraduate, so it wouldn't surprise you to hear that our universities, research intensive, we do $6 billion worth of research each year in Australia, which is around 70% of Australia's research effort. Our focus is on research collaboration, and research collaboration is driven through PhDs. And so what we are here to do is to talk to industry, government agencies. We've announced and establishing a task force to look at how do we actually have more PhDs coming both to Australia and coming to India.
Because this is interesting. We hear the government talk a lot about the numbers. 68,000 Indians studied in Australia last year. You're saying we shouldn't just focus on the numbers, it's the quality.
It's the quality, and how do you scale without compromising quality?
Right.
So the 68,000 students that we hear, the figure you hear, around 30,000 of those are actually in universities. The rest in different, TAFE, VET, schools, etc. And the group of 8 has around 10% of that 30,000, and most of our 10% are in the postgraduate space.
Right.
So it's not to say that we're not focused on undergraduate recruitment, because that's your pipeline, but we are focused on the quality end of recruitment. But
and how important financially for those group of 8 universities, those top universities, is that market here in India?
International education is significant for us, obviously. It's a $22 billion industry in Australia. It's our 3rd largest export sector. The fact of the matter is, as uncomfortable as is to kind of admit, international students cross-subsidise and support our research effort in Australia. But
India is a big part of that.
India will be a big part of that. The potential is to be a big part of that. But I think it's really important to also understand that our researchers coming here is also important. So if you're looking at an economic strategy, if the government is looking at an economic strategy, you have to underpin that with deep embedded partnerships. And they don't just happen because you've turned up to India and you've signed an agreement. In fact, we've not signed any agreements while we've been here, the group of 8.
Is that a little surprising?
That we haven't signed an agreement? No, because we were very keen not to sign agreements, but to actually have something of substance to investigate and to look at. I should say that we've been doing this for 2 decades. It's not like we've just turned up in India. If I think about Monash University, they're in Mumbai. They've got a research academy. There are 300 PhDs in Monash studying and getting a Monash University degree jointly with the IIT in Mumbai. So things are happening across our universities, but not at the scale that we think is available to us.
So to that end, to try and get the scale you're after, would a free trade agreement between Australia and India help? Would that make a big difference?
Look, we're getting on with it. There's no doubt that a free trade agreement would be important on a whole lot of levels. So what you might look at in a free trade agreement in terms of education would be mutual recognition of qualifications, for example, so that if students are studying in Australia or in India, there's mutual recognition. But we can sort of navigate our way through that, and we are. We met with government agencies yesterday here to talk about exactly that issue under the umbrella of Universities Australia. And this afternoon we're meeting with government officials to also talk about some of the barriers to increasing both researcher collaboration and student mobility. So a free trade agreement, I think, sends some really good, strong signals and is important, and we would hope that that would be a government priority. But it won't hamper what we're doing.
Yeah, so finally, how would you characterise the Australian government's efforts to get that free trade agreement done, but also, in the meantime, help your sector grow?
So I think the government, the Prime Minister announced last night that he and his counterpart had fruitful discussions around progressing a free trade agreement. We know former Trade Minister Andrew Robb, who was here as well, has spent a long time when he was Trade Minister in trying to get a free trade agreement to the table. Those talks seem to have stalled, and of course the government also has priorities with Indonesia and other countries. So look, a visit like this is always important in terms of the symbolism from our government and I guess an umbrella message that Australia is open for business. I think that's important. But regardless of that, the Group of 8 in particular will continue to be back and forth. It's a long, slow game and we're in it for the long haul.
Vicki, good to talk to you. Thanks very much for that.
Thanks, David.